My very special guest joining me today, nonetheless, from outside the box, is none other than Alex Ansary. And we had trouble connecting him before, and I was just sitting there with the thing ringing. God damn it! Answer me, Ansary!
I'm glad I could be here, Vincent.
What have you got on the agenda for today, bro? Costello County, where's that?
Well, I've been on your show a couple times in the past talking about going off grid and leaving the city and living a minimalist lifestyle. So Costilla County happens to be the county in Colorado that I've been visiting periodically. First visited this region back in 2012. And even then, I saw this as a place that's the land before time. Very undeveloped. It's the high desert in the San Luis Valley of south central Colorado. It has an altitude of about 7,000 feet. It's a very special place. However, this is a place where the winters can get really cold. It can get us down to negative 35 or negative 40. And to top it all that, you got to haul your own water. You know, it's a rough life. And so something's been brewing here in Costilla County since I came back several months ago. And what is happening, and hopefully John's going to be able to join us tonight. Hopefully AFR will be able to bring him onto the conversation. But what we have here is a clash between the new residents and those people that are here that are afraid of all outsiders. And there's a few audio clips I can play later. But off-the-grid living is under attack, Vinny. Living in your RV, living in your trailer, there are proposed changes to what they're calling their land use code, which really isn't constitutional. But these new rules they've made up from their made-up committee called the Planning Commission, which is appointed by the county commissioners. So this very small county in Costilla, with really a few families running the show, they are proposing new changes that could drive out the off-the-grid community if they don't abide by the new regulations and get a septic and get other things that would tie them to the grid. And so major changes are coming that could drive people into homelessness, making the homeless problem, even bigger in other cities if they got their way. So I'm basically here to sound the alarm and report this. It's been reported on by several other media outlets, fortunately, but they haven't gotten the full story. So those are the very basics of what we're dealing with right now. We are several weeks into this since we first found out that they wanted to change the land use code, without telling the residents and without notifying or putting a notice in the paper. And so we caught wind of this through a woman named Penny Taylor, who was being sued by her neighbor, who sued her because he didn't like the way her property looked. It was basically blocking his mountain. This wealthy Texan by the name of Tim Leggett, who moved up from Texas and sued her daughter, because her daughter was also on the property. And so I really don't know where to begin, Vinny. There's like so many different aspects to this. But a lot of this started blowing up about several weeks ago. And one thing that people can watch if they're interested in seeing the video is the Planning Commission meeting where the people went down after we spread out some flyers in the community to this Planning Commission to speak out against the proposed changes. And this was not something that the county was expecting. They were not expecting to see organization. They were assuming that the people that live off the grid were, for the most part, too ignorant or too unintelligent to realize that they were planning to do this. And so this is
usually an issue doesn't become an issue until it takes issue with you.
Right. And this story just got out there to the San Francisco Chronicle, and a couple other media outlets are reporting on this. So this is basically a microcosm of something far larger. And we're dealing with these basic archetypes, those that are advocating freedom and thinking for ourselves, and those that want to control. Those that believe if you do not live within the grid, if you do not have your own septic, if you live with less, then you're a pig. And there are actually people in the town of San Luis that are so upset with the growth taking place that they have resorted to such name-calling. They have resorted to allegations of racism, that we are a white supremacist sovereign group. believe it or not. And the sheriff's department has made statements that they feel that they are being threatened because there are people that want to observe what they're doing or film what they're doing. And specifically, we're talking about references to myself. In the report, they do a screenshot of me saying to someone, let's go document what they're doing on camera. And they took a screenshot of my conversation with somebody in a group, and they're using that as some sort of picture evidence that they may be dealing with a threat. And so I'm kind of alarmed by that.
Technically, you are a threat. The problem is you're not a physical threat. You're only a threat to the scumbaggery.
Right. I'm not in a militia, and you know that. But the fact is there are some locals that are saying that we are, which is concerning. So they're upset because there was filming taking place, injustice taking place. And this is now getting out there on the internet. And now there are stories being written about this. And I don't think that Costilla County really wants to be on YouTube. But the fact of the matter is they are now, because they tried to do this without the people knowing.
I was just thinking about the irony of off-the-grid living being being interfered with by municipal counties and trying to get them to put in all of the on-grid things. And so many people have been telling me over the years that they want to go live off-grid and that kind of thing and get away from it all, and so that you won't have to deal with the scumbaggery of city councils and whatnot. But I thought for a long time that doesn't make any sense, because if you're living on planet Earth, you're living under somebody's authority at a particular place and time. Now you can either have enough of clout to keep people from interfering with your property, and that would be, I don't know exactly what you could have to accomplish that. Enormous media presence, giant following, or some kind of big resistance movement. But ultimately, if you're trying to get the authorities to back off, you can't really do that unless they take everything from you first, and then they've got nothing left to steal from you, and then they leave you alone.
Exactly. I'm just trying to get AFR to talk to John.
Well, we can do that, but it just seems to me that the whole trying to get off the grid sort of thing, maybe it's not going to work in an Agenda 21 world.
Okay, so there's a lot to talk about here, Vinny, and I'm just going to do my best to try to sum this up. Right now, you're talking about Agenda 21, and there are discussions about Agenda 2030 taking place. Not going to get into it now, but it's kind of ironic that this is taking place. It's ironic because the threat that we're facing here in Costilla County is not coming from the federal government. I want to make that clear, at least not officially. What is clear is that they don't want us here, and they want to change things to where you have to have thousands of dollars, tens of thousands, before you can get. Let me expand on this. They want to change the rules to where you have to have tens of thousands to have your permit, your electric, and running water before you can have a permit to build your home. They want to change the rules to where you can't live in your RV to build your home. Why is it significant? The land here is cheap because there's not a lot of rain. It's like an average 7 inches a year. It's not really a desirable place to be. I mean, it's a desert. But we are within reach of a town called Alamosa, 40 miles away. It has your Walmart, your Safeway. It has basic supplies. It's not so far away from civilization to where it's like something out of the movie Into the Wild. And so it's in town where people go and they get their water filled. That's how people survive out here. And what's happening is the locals in San Luis, which is in the town where the headquarters for Costilla County is, where the meetings are. And it's in town where there happens to be an aquifer, a well. And what has happened since the legalization of marijuana in Colorado, what's happened is more people have moved to this particular county in hopes of growing a whole lot of marijuana and making a living that way. And what I feel is happening is what's not being reported in the press is that we the new residents, those of us that haven't come here to grow pot. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with smoking pot. There's an allegation coming from the local people that a lot of people just moved here to grow a lot of pot, like 50 plus plants. And there are allegations being thrown around that the new people are taking hundreds of gallons of their water. And the townspeople are very angry. They're also angry at some of the trash that's been dumped. And so, we have a communication problem that we're trying to fix through social media and YouTube with some of those that are coming across some of these videos that we're making. There's a new bunch of residents that have come here to Costilla County that are interested in living in harmony with the earth, that are not the types that will engage in creating a meth lab or dumping lots of garbage. Unfortunately, they're upset at those of us that are advocating the off-the-grid way of life, and we're being marginalized, Vinny, as lawbreakers and outlaws. And so it's a difficult thing. It's something I've never really faced before. Going into an off-the-grid community where you're trying to get away from the system, and all of a sudden that very local government starts to act like the very system that we ran away from. And what we're seeing is...
What did you think, bro? They call it a new world order because there's just some place on Earth that you can even escape from it? I mean, come on. But we have John on with us right now. Alex, if you could introduce him for us.
Okay, John. John is also here in the San Luis Valley. John, how do you say your last name?
Spoonius.
Okay, John, thanks for joining me. So I just want to take a breath and kind of explain your role in this and your perspective on the situation, being here, having seen the conflict, which we haven't even talked about, between Costilla County Sheriff's Department and the people of Costilla County that came to the town of San Luis to speak up for their property rights. So introduce yourself, what brought you here to this region, and kind of what you're seeing unfold.
Sure, thank you. Well, I work in information technology. I work online for like a sysadmin with Linux and stuff like that. And in January of 2014, I moved out to the valley because I bought some property with my 2013 tax return, and I wanted to build a what's called super adobe or earth bag house. I see a lot of the ecological problems with the world, like pollution and stuff like that, as a technical problem. So it can be solved with technical problems. So like lighting, a lot of electricity is wasted on lighting. We could use 12-volt lights, so you don't have to convert it to AC 110 and stuff like that. So before I bought my property, I talked to Matt Valdez, the coding and zoning guy, and I asked him if I could live in my RV, and basically all the things that they're trying to kick us out with right now has been okay for many years. So that's one of the frustrating things. I definitely didn't move out here to grow 50-plus pot plants. I've only met one or two people out on the flat who did move out here to grow a whole lot of pot, and they bought houses. They're not trying to live in their RV. That's ridiculous. It is really frustrating what the county's trying to do because they approved it. A lot of us came here with the pretense that we could do this. I don't want to have a mortgage. Why should I work until I'm 60 just to live in a house? So when I'm 65, I have to reverse mortgage it, and, I can't leave anything to my kids. It's ridiculous. So I felt that I would be able to solve all these technical problems, build my house while I lived somehow out there in an RV or in a teepee or whatever. I have 3 kids. A lot of people think that it's like crazy. Why would you want to do that with your kids? But to me, that's like it's a way to bring the family together. That's the way people have lived for thousands of years, and it's not like we don't have any complete technology, It's the way that they're labeling us, making us look like we're all a bunch of crazy, dangerous hippies. It's just ridiculous.
Where's all these forms of allegations coming from? I mean, you said that there's members of the community. Have they identified themselves for you? Have been able to face your accusers at all?
Well, there is a guy named Devin. What's his last name? A lot of the conversation happened in public on the 15th or the 14th at the county commissioners meeting. A lot of stuff that was said didn't make it to YouTube. Like, I was one of the people videotaping with Alex, and I was sitting in a window because I couldn't. The room that they held the meeting in was like a 12 by 12 room. It was really small. So I was sitting outside of a window trying to film it, And there were some longtime residents sitting right next to me, and they were talking shit. And then the Devon guy, I have a video on YouTube where he's telling, I let a guy named Akeem borrow my tablet to do some videotaping because the cops have asked me to move. And so Akeem talks to this guy, Devon, and at the time he didn't want to say who he was. But it comes to find out he wrote a large article on his blog, and he's a PhD, and he's a local too, and he's definitely called every one of us a bunch of white supremacists. So there's evidence online. I don't know if you're aware of the San Luis Valley Just Us page that Chloe created. A lot of the discussion was on there where people who don't even live in the valley anymore, they have their parents who live in the valley or whatever, chimed in with their 2 cents on it. It's definitely not a fabrication. There's lots of evidence of that if you want to dig around.
This particular
why
individual.
Why are they doing it though? What are their interests? I mean, are they trying to make money off of it? Have they got power to gain out of it? What's in it for them?
That's a good question. It to me seems like I lived in Utah before this, so I've dealt with that that good old boy kind of we've lived here a million years and you just moved here kind of stuff. A lot of it's that. To where their grandpa lived there and their great-grandpa lived there, and they don't want to see anyone move in. They don't want to see the place get bigger. They don't want to see the place change. I can understand that, but a lot of it is, I hate to bring racism into it, but a lot of it is just racism. If you're not Hispanic and you haven't lived there for 1,000 years, they don't like you. So there's that. Some of it, I haven't done the fact checking. I have a few speculations. So Costilla County has 40,000 of these 5-acre, 10-acre lots, and they subdivided most of them in the 70s. The county's been making $100 to $150 a year on taxes times $40,000, but they never planned ahead. If you look at how many people that would be, it was on the High Country News just recently. They said the 40,000 lots. If everybody who moved in had a family of 4, it'd be almost 200,000 people. That county was never designed to maintain 200,000 people, not without some serious infrastructure put into place. So why did they go and subdivide these lots, these 35-acre lots, down into 5-acre lots? And the only reason that makes any sense is because the county wanted to make an ass load of money on people paying their taxes. I bought my land from a company called Smile for You Incorporated, and what they do is they go around and do tax lien sales. So people don't pay their taxes, the county repossesses it and sells your place at a lien sale. I actually attend the Costilla County lien sales every year. I have a few properties that I have liens against. So the county makes a lot of money doing this kind of stuff, having nobody live out there. The county makes a lot of money having nobody live out there. Now, they'd make a little bit more on taxes every year if people did move out there, but they make more money reselling this property over and over again, and then reclaiming it and reselling it and reclaiming it. So, it's hard to say.
It's far harder to resell properties endlessly as a continuous cash cow if there's people living there.
Correct.
Alex, you had something to say? To jump in?
The other thing about people living there, that's new residents that could vote out certain people there. So there's an old network of families that have been here for some time. They're very concerned about outsiders. That's where this is taking place. There are some legitimate issues dealing with the trash dumps, dealing with the water. And there is some concern here. Here's the thing. A lot of marijuana was sold out of this region before marijuana was legalized. And so there is this sense of animosity towards the newcomers, and this, I would call it hysteria, that we are the ones taking the hundreds of gallons of water. It's not true. It's not true. And I rarely go to San Luis, and so part of what I want to share tonight was that we go into town and we get our supplies. And sometimes we go somewhere where we safely put our trash away. And we take RVs where we need to go and empty our septic tank properly. We are not the allies you've been looking for. As they say, as it's saying from Star Wars, we're not the droids you've been looking for. No, we've been misidentified, however. And there is resentment because we are standing up for our property rights. And there are other things happening here, too. There are certain people that joined the group that John mentioned that have been talking about sovereignty, the sovereignty movement. And that scared some people. And they did some Googling, and they saw the FBI labeling the sovereign movement as a potential domestic terror group, Vinny. And they repeated that in their blog. that someone angry at what we're doing wrote a blog saying that they don't want to put up with this white supremacy. They're afraid of a white supremacist group. What I want to play really quick is the audio. This is right after the county commissioner meeting. And in this scene, you have Costilla County police officers pushing people down the street, threatening them with arrest if they didn't stop talking. And it was definitely overkill on the part of Costilla County Sheriff's Department. And so far, we haven't exactly seen much accountability. So I'm going to go ahead and play this. I think we have it playing now. Okay. Now, of course, this video can be found on my YouTube channel.
Wait, hold on. Coach, we're going to need to sit around. Let's go. You're going to jail, man. Put your hands up. This is the last time I'm going to carry you. You're going with me. Which one do you want? Which one do you want? Manny. Yeah, 5 seconds. Police. I'm going to arrest you for disorderly conduct and obstructing government operations. Okay? Let's go. Let's go, or I'm going to arrest you. All I did was ask a question. Let's go, or you're going to go to jail. Our brothers and sisters died for all y'all. Our brothers and sisters died for y'all. Hey, last warning. I'm not threatening no one. What's he warning about? You push me away for not threatening anybody. Right now. You are violating my rights by threatening me under duress, under in the town. You need to force us. Is someone filming this? A kid? Yeah. This was a misunderstanding. I also want to talk because he's threatening to arrest me for doing nothing but speaking about First Amendment and opposing a peaceful assembly. Now is not the time. Let's go. We are sovereign Americans. We have the right to the Constitution. We have the right to our freedom. I've defended your right. What's going on? What happened?
Okay, at this point, they're arresting a man named Neil Taylor. So we'll talk about that in a minute.
Let's go. Let's go. Yeah, everybody out of here. You have to. You want to go too? One more time. We'll take you too. You got your last warning. Last time. Are you going to? You asked him to respect him. Yes, let's go. Respected you now. Walk on. He cussed me and he shoved me. Give us some respect and walk on. I never cussed to him. You don't get in my face. I never pushed him. Walk on. I didn't get in your face. You walked at me. It's all recorded, brother. It is all recorded. Yeah, it is all recorded. Okay, go. This is not the time. Let's go. Walk. You've already been warned. Walk. Why is the community being segregated? Okay. Because you guys are arguing segregated. We're asking you to walk. We're asking them to walk. Now start walking. No, I see. That was actually split from part of the group. This is not the time. I really don't want to jail you guys. Start walking. Just walk away. This is no longer peaceful. This is no longer peaceful. It's no longer peaceful because we're segregated. Okay? Yes.
Okay, so apparently debate in a small town is not peaceful. Is not peaceful in the eyes of Under Sheriff Espinoza. So John, you want to describe that situation?
Oh, that was it was very intense. There was a lot of energy in the air right before everything kind of broke. Seeing everybody show up, and so on the 8th and the 9th, a week before there was the county commissioner board meeting, and it consisted of mostly us, the off-gridders. And that was a good meeting. But this meeting, one of the first things I noticed is there was a lot more people out there. And that's where the energy kind of played in. I noticed that there were more locals, and not everybody. When I was talking to people, when I talked to Neil, when I talked to people that I had met the week before, I was getting a lot of dirty looks, and I kind of had a feeling something like that was going to happen. And as soon as it did, I mean, it was pretty powerful. It's hard to describe. It's definitely one of those moments. I knew that I had to go to that meeting for some reason, and that was it, was to witness all of that and kind of participate in all that. But and since then, before that moment, I used to see all the people around town. I never saw any dirty looks. I never felt any bad vibes. Since that incident, I can't even go to the store here in Antonito, which is 40 miles away. I feel like everybody must know who I am. I'm that troublemaking white guy. with the mohawk is how I feel. Everybody seems to give me bad looks now. Maybe I'm just a little paranoid, but it definitely changed the tone in the area.
Well, a big incident like that generally does, especially if it's an incredibly small community like we're talking. What's the population?
Of the county, I think it's like 3,200 or something. It's very small. It's not very large at all.
That's the size of some high schools.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to say that this whole thing brought people together. A lot of people out here that live on the prairie like to keep to themselves. And so when we caught wind of this through Penny and Neil, Chloe, to give her credit, Chloe and Hiram, who are friends of mine, and it's through them that I found out about this, completely through synchronicity. I arrived here, returned here just before all this took place. So they found out about through Penny. They printed out some flyers, and then they drove to, quite a few residences, those that felt safe enough to, put a flyer in the mailbox. And, of course, there's a lot of properties you don't want to step on. So there was a lot of putting the flyer in the fence, hoping that the message in the bottle got to the property owner. And people showed up that some people had never seen for years. So I'll tell you, Vinny, it was a very healing moment for a lot of people that were in that room on that day of September 9th, 2015. And on that date, the Planning Commission was, this is before what you just heard, the chaos in the street. This is like a week before that when we first showed up. People in town were like, what are these people doing here? They had never seen people come down to a county meeting or a Planning Commission meeting. And so some of the people in town have been putting out the false narrative that we are there to break the rules, that we don't respect the local culture. And in reality, we like the way things have been. It's the proposed changes that are really, really scary. I just want to play maybe a minute or two of some of the residents speaking out at the Costilla County Planning Commission. This is September 9th, 2015, probably the first time ever they had seen so many local residents upset about their policies.
Is it Clark's or Charles?
Then the King Charles?
Yes.
All right, sir. I'm just here to say I'm a disabled veteran as well. I came here, I bought the land mostly to be left in peace. I'm just camping on it right now. But I have a mother who might be coming to visit me soon. She's a disabled veteran as well. I don't know if any of you may have had the same dreams, but I hope one day I can build a house that my mother will never have to pay rent again. And that's all. I just came here like everyone else. I'm sure we just want to be left alone. I don't mean to break any laws. I don't mean to harm my neighbors. If anything, I help my neighbors whenever possible, whenever they call me. I don't mean to disrupt the land. I clean my land. I clean regular things I see around. Just because I like the valley. I like it here and I want to make it my new home. That's all I have to say.
Next is Chloe Evelyn.
That's me. And one thing I wanted to address that I haven't heard yet is the human rights consequences of the proposed changes. I understand that the county has a lot of problems. This is the poorest county in Colorado. I've been involved with Conejos County Clean Water and have seen the illegal dump sites. And there's like carcasses next to the creek. It's really gross. And there's a lot of poverty here. But I think that going about solving the problems this way is going to actually create a whole lot of unintended ones. You're talking about children coming to school in squalor, but what's going to happen to those kids who are living in an RV with parents who love them if those parents go to jail over a nuisance violation? Or if those kids whose parents have worked really hard to cut wood, gather materials, buy supplies, are forced to leave right before winter? I mean, what's going to happen to them? It's not like they're going to move into a house. They'll be like under a bridge in Denver or something. There's a lot of people who really aren't well off here. And what I want to say is that I think it'd be a whole lot better if we tried to build community. There's a lot of us out here who want to do that and who are getting to know our neighbors, who are getting involved with a lot of the nonprofits, the local food coalition, the environmental groups, and who are trying to make those things even stronger.
Okay, that's all I'm going to play. So that's just a sample from the Planning Commission meeting, and people can find that at my channel. It goes on for about an hour and a half.
I wonder as well, this seems to be happening. Is this happening elsewhere in America, or is it just, uniquely this council is kind of like a little hotbed for it?
Well, there really is a war on off-the-grid living, and there really is a real American refugee experience taking place with people that have been displaced and forced out of their homes, living in vehicles, living in RVs, staying with friends. And there are people that are living the urban experience. I've done that. I've lived in Portland in my vehicle in a homemade teardrop camper after returning from the San Luis Valley. That experience in Portland, Vinny, and I remember talking to you about it, it made my resilience, my passion even that much stronger to return here with the goal of building my own home, which is my plan, by the way. I'm only living in an RV at the moment. It's just a means to an end. And so this is also, for me, we are able to shine a light on this using social media and YouTube. We have the ability to bring transparency to this. And so there's been struggles historically in this region and a lot of concerns about outsiders. And there's a lot of trouble that some outsiders have brought to this region and the original inhabitants of this region. The true native peoples. And so this is definitely happening all over, Vinny, and it's disappointing to see it happen here because this is traditionally, see, they think people have come here for the marijuana. I'll tell you what it is. It's the lax building codes. People can come here and they can build a straw bale home. And they can pay $500 or $1,000. There's your permits. For years people have lived and used compost toilets. They've lived off solar. For years, people have built their home while they lived in their RV. This is how it's been done. Living like pilgrims, the land before time. This is literally the wild, wild west. And so they want to change things to where this is no longer the wild, wild west. Like this is some land with a homeowners association. The thing is, if people wanted that, the people with the big money, they would be here already. If they thought that they would be improving the attractability, to this region like Tim Liggett, the wealthy Texan wants. He wants to see his property value go up. A lot of people, the San Luis Valley is not for them. There's plenty of places that are high in Colorado where people that are okay with those regulations go. They're in northern Colorado. They're in they're in other places in the state. They don't come to Costilla County, the poorest county in Colorado. Only a control freak like Tim Leggett would want to do something like that. Come in and try to change the rules in a whole county just because they want to have a better view. And so we're not really sure why the county wants to say no to taxpayer dollars, why they want to offend landowners. And there are people with major interests in Costilla County. So what we're also trying to do is bring light to the story. Because the policies that Costilla County may enact, it's going to affect the values of many people's property. And there are many people that are selling land in Costilla County. And I do think that this is a good place to go if the you-know-what hit the fan for a lot of different reasons. So that's why I'm passionate about this.
I see here that there's about 800 people that are living off the grid in Costilla County. That's a significant percentage of the local population. So this is a regular thing. This has been going on for quite some time. Why all of the worry about it now of all times?
And that's what we're trying to get to the bottom of. I've shared a few of my concerns relating to them feeling like their marijuana business is being stepped on. I think that there are other factors. I'm going to hand it to John real quick, but I want to add in the fact that there is an issue with the drought in Colorado. There's an issue with the water table. And so I feel that there might be some good people here, but there are people that are blaming new people for maybe issues with the water supply. They have a well in San Luis, yes.
Kind of like blaming the Gen Xers for something the problems that the baby boomers caused.
Because there are some people that have moved here to grow a lot of marijuana. It is assumed, and there was a Denver Post mainstream media article that came out this year, marginalizing the new residents as being a lot of pot growers. I'm telling you, Vinny, that's not the truth.
What? How many residents? Whoa! How many residents total actually moved there to start growing marijuana, which is legal, by the way, and if they've got licenses,
And let's also define there's growing a lot of marijuana, like 50 plus plants, and there's growing like 1 to 3 plants. Most people that do grow grow owning a few. There are sometimes people that may come in. I haven't met that many of them or known them, but I certainly am not taking hundreds of gallons of water, nor is anyone that I know. And so because of the actions of a few, and they're saying people are coming to their town now, and they're sitting at the well, which used to be a well where people would just come, take 5 gallons, 10 gallons, and be done with it. And now people are showing up, taking hundreds of gallons. Some of that may be true.
So people actually are showing that up. It wasn't just made up.
They say that there are people that are taking more than their fair share than what is allowed. And so what is happening, maybe as a result of the last few years of a buildup of some people doing this, whole groups of people are being blamed for the actions of a few. And in addition to that, other things are being said of a passive-aggressive nature from some residents in San Luis relating to this being, it's almost as if it's their right because of their ancestors and the land grants passed down. I want to hand this to John. There are some really aggressive statements made by a few community members that they almost have the right to shout over these new residents or shout at our friend Akeem simply because they're native. And that's a video that John shot. And I think we should pull that up. John, do you have that?
I could pull it up. I'd like to touch on some of the stuff you're talking about, too. I'm guessing we haven't talked about the Lobato versus Taylor case and how that might apply to all this. Basically, the Lobato versus Taylor case is a famous, Supreme Court of the Colorado case, where there was a guy named Taylor in the 70s or 80s. He purchased thousands of acres of forest up in the Sangre de Cristo Mountains there in Costilla County. Now, if you track the land rights all the way back, all of this area originally was Mexico and Spain. Then America won it in the Taos War, the Mexican-American War. And when America won it, they promised to honor the original land rights and the original land deeds and such. And in those original land deeds, so one of the interesting things about the area is it's the last commons. And if you're aware of the historical tragedy of the commons, that's what's happening right now. It's the tragedy of the commons. Too many people are abusing a shared resource. But anyway, so there's this land tract called Taylor Ranch or Lobato Ranch, depending on who you are. And the locals, if they could trace their heritage back so many generations, were allowed to log on it. They were allowed to hunt on it. They were allowed to graze their cattle on it without any kind of permits. It was a shared resource, a commons. And when this Taylor guy bought the land, he fenced all the locals out. Now, the locals fought long and hard, and they lost many court cases, but they kept taking it to court, and they finally were able to win in a Supreme Court ruling called Taylor versus Lobato. And so a lot of these animosities arise from what the locals believe is their rights over the whole valley, whether it is or not. It's what they believe is their rights. And Devin, the guy we're talking about, let me try to pull that up real quick. He's one of those people. He's one of those people that believes that all this stems from their right. And he's even ranting and raving about it on the I'm looking right now. About how it's Go ahead.
I just want to say one of the things that's kind of alarming about what he's about to play is that this individual is talking to our black friend Akeem, and he says he's making references to like you're not going to get very far if you're acting white or something like that if you're not acting black, and as if he was with bad white people, as if he should feel guilty for that. And we're really grateful to at least have this footage because we're documenting the level of animosity. We're documenting the level of racial supremacy.
Now, I'm starting to look at this in very similar ways because it's not just happening in all across America as we've just discussed here, but it's also happening in places like New Zealand, little communities all over the place just having their rates hiking up, and the councils come in and they steal money from people and put up all this red tape BS, and basically people can't afford it, so they have to leave. and they leave, and then the new place that they moved to, which was a lot cheaper and not as regulated and not controlled by ruthless criminal sociopaths in fucking suits that you pay all your money to for no bloody reason, the same thing happens again, right? It's like an infection that has caused its way through the entire system of global settlement, just in general. If you have a house somewhere, there's some scumbag that you're going to have to pay money to, It's like a global mafia racket.
Well, in addition to that, you have Stockholm Syndrome. You have the people that are slaves themselves seeing people trying to break free from the cage, and they resent that, and they don't support that. There are some people that see the story as significant because they identify with it. And some people that are already living off the grid or want to live off the grid or understand why living off the grid is important, especially in this day and age, they appreciate it. To other people, it's strange why somebody would want to live outside the system. And there are assumptions thrown around, and there are things that we're seeing here on the microcosm that do reflect the attitude of the macrocosm. For example, the assumption that an organized group off the grid might be racist, like they may be an anti-government militia, capable of dangerous actions. We are seeing this level of propaganda in our, not just America, but New Zealand, but the UK, and it is frightening. But to see that pointed at off the gridders is even more frightening. And what also we learned from Miss Vinny is how statements made in a Facebook group can be used against a group if there is not proper moderation. Case in point, this is also a very important part of the story. A person came in randomly, supposedly from Chicago, who had 19 friends, a Facebook profile, and he made statements promoting taking the firearms, taking the guns away from Costilla County, and that is viewed as a violent threat. So when law enforcement is watching a page, and they are watching everything that is being posted, anything being posted and left there by the moderator is seen as a statement that perhaps the other members of the group support. I remember chastising this individual. I remember bringing it to someone's attention that the statement was made and feeling like my warnings were not heeded. And what happened was those statements were noticed by our critics and those that do not wish us success. And they reported in a local paper. I believe John read this as well. What happened was, in a propaganda war manner, in a local paper that they didn't publish on the internet, they smeared the group as a white supremacist group. They said that they were called dirty Mexicans, or they made some reference to that. They made reference to racism. They put up photographs of a very white-looking guy, our friend named Tyler, who has a very red-looking long beard. And even though he was very well-mannered and didn't say a word, very polite, because of his looks, we feel he was profiled. And so in this La Sierra newspaper that was only in print, distributed to certain members of the local community, they sought to marginalize us in a particular light. We're calling attention to that because the last thing that we actually want is conflict. But we're noticing a pattern here in this attempt to paint us in a certain light as maybe being a potential threat.
What are they going to do? Kick 800 people off their land?
Well, here's one more thing I want to share too. They have a proposed police budget for new toys. Grenade launchers, tear gas, 5 times the legal limit. And so right as this is all happening, and right as, certain code enforcement officers showing up all of a sudden on people's property, and people are concerned, about these regular visits that they're seeing from the county. Now they're going to be buying all this riot gear. They have a proposed budget, so they want to get that over the course of the winter going into next year. So they are concerned. They're really concerned about new growth. And what we haven't been able to figure out is why they're not, like other counties, why they're not appreciating the taxpayer dollars coming into the county.
Let me get this straight. So they go, all right, we need some grenade launchers. And then got the grenade launchers.
Right, exactly. That's what's happening.
Okay. Yeah.
I think I dropped
state,
there for a
Homeland
minute.
Security. It's
right.
It's just lovely stuff. John, have you found that thingy in the video thingy there?
Yes, I did. Let me go ahead and play it.
Mexican land grant. It has a very deep history. Okay. Half of the people here are Native Americans, the other half are Mexican Americans. And we have a very strong relationship to the land and water. I'm a farmer. I have 181 acres that I irrigate off the oldest ditch in Colorado. Yeah. We don't have people stealing water out of our ditch. That's what your neighbors are doing. That's what they're doing. It's up to you all moving here to get control of whoever your new community is part of, because you're violating the law. Okay. And that's all I wanted to say. So learn about water law, learn about the land grant.
I have learned about the water. I've learned about the water law.
I could teach you about that if you want to learn. But it's really not my responsibility. I think if you're going to move a place, you got to have a sense of place. Yeah. And you got to respect the place. And if you don't, you're going to have this kind of trouble. Okay, instead of people getting along and figuring out how to solve problems, you're going to have animosity and conflict. And you're also going to have white people trying to bring their supremacy here. It ain't going to work. Okay? Yeah. How's that going to work? And if you're black and you're still acting white, that ain't going to work either, brother. Yeah. That ain't going to work either. So you got to know who you're with.
Wait, sir, you
so Black Lives Matter, Chicano Lives Matter,
you spoke to me about raising your voice, sir. Now you're raising your voice at me.
Yeah, I got a right because I'm indigenous from here. You're not.
So you have a right to yell at me just because you're from here?
I'm asking you to educate yourself.
This is not, I understand.
Okay? I'm asking you.
After that, the cops break him up, but that's basically it. And that guy speaking is the same guy on this blog. Let me see if I can find it. His name is Devin. He wouldn't reveal his identity. He didn't want to say who he was, because he's the one that's calling us all a bunch of racists. Now, as far as the stealing water thing is concerned, I've yet to find the minute on it myself and track it down, but there is legal people who do this. There are water judges, is what they're called, and state water engineers. And there was a meeting in San Luis just recently that somebody was discussing on Facebook, where it's not pot growers. Pot growers aren't even a blip on the map. Us off-the-grid people aren't even a blip on the map. The majority of the reasons people are missing water is because the farmers are stealing it from each other, and that's a tale as old as time. But, they've tracked that down. I wish I had the hard evidence with me. I'm working on getting that. But, they could be a District 3 water court in Alamosa can be contacted. It's not.
That makes a bit more sense to me, than, these people are just coming living off the grid, we don't like them, and such and so forth. It'd be more like, hey, we've been here for ages and we're stealing a whole bunch of other people's waters. We're going to need a fall guy. Preferably somebody who's broke, can't defend themselves, won't be trusted because they haven't been round for too long or something like that. Somebody who's basically what we reckon is an easy target.
I would have to agree.
Yeah, makes a lot more sense now. Before I was just kind of confused, and I was like, who has the game here? Who's the fall guy? And so on and so forth. Now I know. I wonder as well if it's possible to kind of get that out a little bit more forcefully, because when you're going up against a propaganda machine, usually they'll throw something at you and they go, this is the person to blame, that's the person to blame. And if you don't have the actual culprit being able to just get laid out like, actually, no, this is the person to blame, yes, thank you very much, they're stealing water, they're blaming us, and they're scum, okay? And they're top-heavy on their businesses, and they're about to all go bankrupt, and they've got basically nothing left. They're being backed into a corner here, just like everybody else. And so what do animals do when they get backed into a corner? They bite you as hard as they can, because they know that their days are numbered.
And there's been dialogue back and forth. There's been many people that have cordially tried to talk to some of these people making these allegations. There's the San Luis Valley Just Us Facebook page, and there's actually a Facebook page that they created where they make fun of us, what few members are in that group. But there is a lot of questions that people are asking whether it's even worth it to invest in Costilla County anymore. And what I will say is that I believe in this area. I think it's good land. I think it's a good place to be. And I don't think people should give up. I think this should only make people even more passionate about their land, and they should get involved in voting locally. I'm not a big fan of voting, certainly not the national side of things. But if this is a county where there's 800 plus members off grid, and the whole county is about 3,200 or 3,600, I think that they're underestimating how many people are here. I don't think that they want to count everybody that's here, Vinny. That's actually why on a side issue we're finding out many people are having a really hard time getting a physical address so they can actually get mail. And there's extremely limited mail delivery and service here. And so that really prevents infrastructure. That really makes it harder for people to get mail and be a registered voter. That's a really important component to this.
So how exactly can you fight back against this? What's your game here?
Well,
the silence is deafening.
I want to hand to John first. Right now I'm covering.
Actually, we've got to go to break, unfortunately.
Okay, we'll be back.
Yeah, we've told you the problem, and then over the break you can have your reaction, and when we come back in segment 2, we can have a solution prepared for you, nice and easy, just like a New World Order well-oiled machine. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen, at the VinnyEastwoodShow.com. It's listener-supported broadcast, so please, if you can, start donating a couple of dollars a month. Really helps out here, especially right about now when we're in this kind of, financial anxiety syndrome. We'll be right back.
I like very much
radio.
You're an American institution.
American Freedom Radio.
Did you know there are 3 million edible food plants on Earth, and none have the nutritional value of the hemp plant? HempUSA.org offers you hemp protein powder. It does not contain chemicals or THC, is non-GMO, and is 100% gluten-free. Hemp protein powder burns fat, builds muscle, contains 53% protein, and feeds the body the nutrients it needs. Call 888-910-4367 and see what our powder, seeds, and oil can do for you. Only at HempUSA.org. HempUSA.org introduces 3 brand new detox formulations of micro plant powder. Brain Fuel for depression, bipolar disorders, and stress. Total Care, anti-cancer agent that cleans the liver and organs and increases memory. Rejuvenate, invigorates and heals the body, mind, and spirit. These products are your alternative to pharmaceuticals. Call 888-910-4367 and like us on Facebook. We ship worldwide. Only at HempUSA.org.
American Freedom Radio is back. We're trying to become commercial free, apart from a few honourable advertisers that we would give ad space to even if they couldn't pay us. In this quest to deliver quality radio with very few annoying ads, we are now asking the listeners like you to open up and become partners with American Freedom Radio. We all know the economy is controlled, and a new system called the peer-to-peer economy is now within our grasp. That means if you'd like this network with its incredible hosts and credible information to be nothing but the content you want to hear, then you must realize that you cannot be a part of it if you're just sitting on the sidelines watching. Go to AmericanFreedomRadio.com and pledge your support today. Donate according to your means. Some can only afford $1 a month, while others can afford $100 a month. Regardless of the size of your contribution, it all adds up to keeping the network owners and the radio hosts housed and fed at the end of every month. Thank you.
Yo, what's up? Check this out. The voice of the revolution. American Freedom Radio. American Freedom Radio.
We are living in a new era. Partnerships are more important than profit, and gratitude is more respected than greed. As the millennial generation evolves the corporate landscape, our company aims to maximize the achievements of CBD application and push the limits of what's possible by 2020. Our core product matrix and careful cannabidiol purification process are uniquely designed to be privately made in different regions of the world and is geared to assist the efforts of different nations to change the landscape, various pain-related healthcare costs, epilepsy and autism, rising mental disorders, and even soldier suicides. Crystal Pure CBD is made with the industry's finest 99.9% pure CBD crystals. No paste, no filler. Our solution is a permanent answer, and it saves you over 1/3 in cost. Crystal Pure CBD. Come join us.
You're listening to AmericanFreedomRadio.com, the network who perseveres in delivering intelligent debate, constructive dialogue with true independence. The freedom to broadcast the truth is not free at all. So what is American Freedom Radio worth to you? The empowering information with fun, honest and pure integrity behind it provides an example to follow. Friendships to flourish with the moral altruism that pulls no punches. The hosts sacrifice and show remarkable discipline in their duty to deliver quality radio in service to the community with strength, wisdom and loyalty. The founders of AFR wish to thank you personally for sharing your views and insights to make the best radio and alternative media. Now it's time for you to give something back and play a vital role in the future of America. Be as generous with us as we've been with you. Click on the donate banner at AmericanFreedomRadio.com or volunteer by emailing AmericanFreedomRadio.com. Vaccine, psychotropic drugs and artillery batteries not included.
No rules, no rules, no taboo topics, no fear of doom, We are American Freedom Radio. American Freedom Radio.
I'm gonna make you an offer you can't refuse. It's hour number 2 of the fastest 2 hours in talk radio. It's the Vinny Eastwood Show, broadcasting live on AmericanFreedomRadio.com. It's the lighter side of genocide, because in a world so full of chaos and madness, if you lose your sense of humor, you'll go frickin' nuts.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to hour number 2 of the fastest 2 hours in talk radio. It's the Vinny Eastwood Show, broadcasting live on AmericanFreedomRadio.com 4 days a week for your listening pleasure. And we do appreciate all of those people who will be kind enough to go to the new American Freedom Radio Facebook page and give it a like there and start listening to the shows live. We want to really kind of take AFR to the next level. We've got it back on its feet, and now we just need to get it running again. So we will need your help to do that, as well as anybody who is capable. Go to AmericanFreedomRadio.com, click on that big donate banner there, and give them a one-off or start funding them regularly. How much resources have you got that you want to share? Just understand that mainstream media, it doesn't cover anything of importance, and that's why they've got a hell of a lot of money, because they get to distract you with things that aren't important and then sell you shit that you don't need. We want to tell you about things that are very important, and we don't really want to sell you anything. We'll show you some things that might actually help you get better if you're sick, help you stay well if you want to be that way, and a number of other things that we bring in and advertise to you. We wouldn't do it unless we believed in the stuff that was there. If it's just some kind of random, nonsensical gold rush type mentality about getting in as much advertising revenue as possible just so that we can pay the bills, no. We want to pay the bills, sure, but we're not willing to compromise our integrity or that of the network in order to do it. That means with the peer-to-peer economy, it is incumbent on you, the listeners, to support it. And hopefully that relationship will become symbiotic, where listeners will support the network and the network will bring the listeners what they want: commercial-free programming. Really good quality stuff as well. And we're bringing it to you one step at a time. Alex Ansary is my very special guest, as well as John Spoonius, who has a wife that he spoons. Sorry, that's just a terrible joke there. I bet you get that a lot.
Yeah, it's no problem. Yeah, I do.
Well, spooning leads to forking, as they say. And speaking of getting forked, we were talking just before the break about possible solutions, avenues of resistance to this, and we were discussing that a lot of you people had never even met each other before this, and it's only been happening for a very short period of time. It seems to be taking off quite quickly. And to me, that's simply a sign of the fact that all the people who are involved, as you mentioned on the break, are all individuals who are going about it their own way. So it's starting to get out there in a number of different fast-moving facets as all these people work in their own way, and yet they're all working to the same objective, which seems to be getting accomplished a bit quicker. So far, it has managed to accomplish what virtually no local county resistances accomplish, and that is getting some kind of a media hype about it. I've seen a number of times that this has happened, and usually it winds up becoming in favour of the residents, unless, of course, that media coverage completely stops and all the people get threatened and bought out and what have you. And with a community of individualists who are living off-grid, I don't see that happening.
I'd have to agree, yeah, definitely. We're all going to go about it our own individual ways. Alex, his way of going about it has been documenting, which has just been wonderful. We've all had something to contribute, though. Personally, I've started a volunteer group on Facebook. So, if they want us to comply, fine. We'll dig a septic tank. We'll do what they ask. But we'll do it with volunteers. Instead of breaking the bank, we'll gather together. We have a lot of manpower. It seems like we can show up in numbers to demonstrate peacefully. We can show up in numbers to dig a hole. Alex getting into contact with the media has been great. All of the conversations on Facebook, I think, have really made an impact. A lot of the long-term residents, the naysayers, have quieted down in the last few days, and I don't know if that's because they're just sick of hearing us or if maybe some of the things that we're saying are finally getting through to them.
Hopefully a little bit of both.
Yeah, hopefully a little bit of both. And even though there's a few people out there who really are sticklers for their sovereign rights and constitutional rights, and even those people I've been helping as much as I can by providing them, documentation, books, how to sue and win, stuff like that. I've got a book called Brown's Lawsuit Cookbook. I've made a bunch of photocopies, a scan of it, and I've been handing it out to the people who want to go that route. If that's what they want to do, fine. So I think coming together as a community, learning who each other are, and just getting to know each other is probably the worst thing that they could have done. If that's what their goal was to sneak this in on us. They didn't sneak anything in on us.
Have you noticed that that's what happens to communities when they're going through a collective crisis? Everybody suddenly gets to know their neighbours and works together. Like, I remember I was talking to Suzanne Posel about this when the hurricane hit Florida, where she was, and knocked out all the power and everything. Their whole street basically got together and emptied all their freezers, and they were having ribs and roasts and all sorts of real yummy stuff because it was going to go off anyway, right? And it really brought the community together. That's what like suffering in a time of crisis for an American is like, because when it comes to the brass tacks right here, when you're seeing your neighbours in trouble and what have you, Americans change. They don't have that laziness, that procrastination anymore. They seem to get whipped up relatively quickly and get the job done.
Absolutely, and hopefully we can keep the momentum and get the job done, because it'd be nice. There's at least the county board and the zoning are still open-minded to sustainable buildings. That hasn't been taken off the docket. They want us to pay $20,000 before we can start building, but at least it's still there. Maybe a middle ground could be sought, and maybe with all this attention, hopefully they'll realize if they are corrupt and they're trying to sneak anything in, it just isn't going to work.
Well, in my experience, if you're talking with the city council or anybody with authority and what they're telling you doesn't make sense, it's because they're on the take.
I think the question is really important as to what we do, because we have people that are now watching that have interests in this area that have emailed me. There's been a number of stories that have been reported to me about some of the problems people have faced, and they want a solution. They want to get behind an organization. They want to have representation in their local government. There are people that have come here with tens of thousands of dollars, and they still have the doors slammed in their face. And so there are people right now that want to see something done about this. I think we should be brainstorming what we can do. Well, one thing is to think about a decentralized response to where it's not all happening in one Facebook group. There are multiple websites. There are people talking about making it easy for people to come and settle here by providing a website with information as to how to get internet, where to get propane, where the certain towns are with the basic services. Because it is true that some people wind up here and they don't even know how to go through the basic steps to get a P.O. box. And so
have you thought of community service in an effort to bribe, essentially, in the minds of the general public of the county as to your goodwill and intention, Get a big group of off-the-gridders into town and, pick up trash and stuff like that, or repair something, or paint a nice mural or some...
I think that there is some discussion already underway about documenting some of the trash cleanup groups that are already present here, that some of the people associated with the group that went down to, stand up for our property rights, some of them have already been on some of these cleanup crews and have seen the dumps. And so it's important to document as well that there are people here that have donated their time to cleaning up other people's trash. Things like that are going to develop. I think that just simply for me, documenting on camera and watching other people help share the information and multiple websites has been pleasant to experience. Even though we've been dealing with a lot of negativity from the locals, because it's just important that this be brought out in the light because of the tensions involved, frankly. And I don't want to see people smeared as white supremacists when they're not. And unfortunately, I'm seeing that. We want to hopefully get dialogue going so that the people watching that are afraid of outsiders understand where we're coming from, basically. And at some point, we can have mediators.
Now, what's special about this land? Because I see kind of like a generalized sort of way to get people off this land. Is there something on there that's special to somebody? Is there something on there that's incriminating to somebody? What's with the land specifically? Because I can understand the water and I can understand the farmers using that water and then blaming it on the outsiders who the locals won't trust. But why the land? But the money side of it and keep continuously reselling it without people on it. I'm not sure.
I mean that's a matter of perspective. I think this is a good place to be when the hits the fan. I think that this is a very special place spiritually. I'm not the only one that believes that. There's a series of books by a man named Christopher O'Brien who has documented the UFO history in this region, which we have not talked about tonight, but it's its own show. And so there is a certain amount of information out there, and certain locals have seen some of the lights. And, of course, it's Colorado. We're about, 3 to 5 hours from Denver, depending on which path you take. So there are rumors about underground bases. And we're just north of New Mexico, where there's rumored to have been a lot of things taking place over there. It's also a training range where there are certain aircraft that are active in Afghanistan and Iraq. Because this terrain is like the terrain over in that part of the planet, C-130s train here, fighter jets train here. You see a fair amount of aircraft activity, including helicopters, that occasionally may buzz over someone's home. So, I've always thought that the federal government at some point would try to push some sort of Agenda 21 measure to push us off the land. But officially right now, this is just coming from the county. But Dave, you were saying, John, you were saying?
Oh yeah, I've seen those helicopters. They've gotten pretty close to my RV a few times, and you do see some weird stuff. But I mean, what is it? That's a good question, though. Maybe is it mineral rights or something like that? Fracking is one of the things that's really discouraged in the San Luis Valley. There are rumors that there is oil under it, but we have a huge aquifer in the valley, and thousands of farmers, the entire San Luis Valley, rely on that aquifer. So if they were to start fracking here,
what are you, like 2 miles from the Rio Grande as well?
Yes, absolutely. It's the headwaters of the Rio Grande come out of the northern part of the county, so it's where it starts. But I mean, there are a lot of spectacular minerals around. I don't know if there's anything valuable like gold or anything, but there's a lot of gemstones in the area. Like on my property, you can walk around and find agatized coral. It's just laying around. I have friends who found turquoise and a lot of precious gems. I don't know if that's part of it, but they do exist. There is a rich geology and mineral history here. It is possible something like that is going on.
But a lot of this deals with water and water rights and fear of not having enough and fear of not surviving and fear of outsiders taking the water and there not being enough for the farms that have been there for a while. So, I mean, there's a lot of, I think, misdirected anger at the new residents for issues that are more systemic, dealing with a drought in Colorado that's been happening for a long time now. Now, this year we've seen more rain than normal. And I'm personally optimistic about this area. I think about growing quinoa, not marijuana, but growing quinoa, which is a drought crop. It can grow in this type of environment. It doesn't need a lot of water. And so, I'd like to see maybe, as we are seeing this climate change, we're seeing more rain in Colorado and we're seeing an expanded drought on the West Coast. Not just California, but Oregon and Washington. And so, behind the scenes, not everybody is seeing it for what it is. We have resource depletion and or mismanagement of resources because you have big farms using mass amounts of water also locally for alfalfa and straw. And so, a lot of water just goes to those monocrops. In addition to that, you've had different water companies try to access the massive aquifer underneath us. And it's one of the largest aquifers, sources of water on the planet and in this country, what we're standing on. And so that is one of the resources there. And there's a lot of control over water. Somebody can have a well if they have 35 acres, but they're not allowed to use that well water for a garden. So there are lots of restrictions here in this valley to conserve water and whatnot.
This wasn't one of the parts of the country where they outlawed collecting rainwater or something? I heard about that a while ago.
It was actually Colorado. All the water in Colorado belongs to the state and is to be apportioned to people based on water rights. Have just
people
recently
never heard of Bechtel? Did you ever hear about that? Some South American country. Yes. Bechtel privatized the water and said, no, even the rainwater belongs to us. And that's exactly what's happening here.
In Brazil, yes. It is very similar. They recently relaxed the law to where if you own a home, you can collect the rainwater that falls on your roof, and only that. But that was, I think, 2013 that they just barely changed the law, and it's still incredibly restrictive. But yes, for years, that's an old Colorado law, actually. It goes back to the settling of Colorado. It's been like that.
Why is it like that, though? I mean, is water that scarce? And you said this was dating back to the settlement of Colorado, so was it that scarce back then as well?
I think it has to do with the way water was apportioned. So it had to do with, so if there was a lake and it existed, the first person that came and discovered the lake would be given the land patent and the rights to that resource.
I mean, the climate was different 100 years ago. Jaroso was much greener. There are drawings of what Jaroso used to look like. Jaroso was in the middle of the Rio Grande Ranchos, which is an off-the-grid community subdivision within Costilla County. So it's about 10 miles by 10 miles. You'll see trailers, people living on plots. Jaroso has a post office. So back in the day, it was a farming community. And I don't know how much more rainfall there was back then, but yeah, the water access was significantly different. The water table, the water level on the Rio Grande River, much higher. So they basically grew a whole lot of food, and it was said that they basically over-farmed, and so the land lay dormant. There's actually one part of the Rio Grande River, I can actually hear coyotes right now. There's actually one section of this area that at one point is rumored to have been a Japanese internment camp in the late 1940s. So, I mean, just this whole area has a lot of history, including the history of Kit Carson, who came through here and massacred a lot of the Native Americans. The same area where we're living off the grid now, Vinny, is the same area where there was, the Indian Wars, where the Ute Indians, or the Ute Indians, where Utah gets its name, they were used as mercenaries against the other Native American tribes when the Spanish were first colonizing this region. And so there's a little bit of bad blood in just the whole area from the past. And so
and I have this person, Gesso Black. I'm not sure if you think you're friends with them on Facebook there, John. It said something about remains of skeletons found 2 miles from Costilla County, that they were found in July, haven't been identified yet. They allege that there's a major corruption that needs to be examined. I don't know what your guys' take on that is.
I saw that post. It's possible. I mean, it's a big valley. In fact, a lot of people around here, we do, like Alex said, it's the Wild West. Valley rules. There's different rules out here. It's completely possible somebody was killed out there and just left out there. It's a big place. We all own guns. I'm pretty sure I own guns. Everybody does out there. It's just the way it is. So it's completely possible that it's something like that. There are a lot of archaeological sites here in the valley. Alex was talking about the history here. There's a rich cultural history that goes back hundreds of years. It might be that. But yeah, I wouldn't put murder or intrigue past it. It's completely possible.
And yeah, it is the desert. There was actually a serial killer that buried some bodies out here. It was a high-profile story, and he buried a few prostitutes out here. It came out from Denver, and I think this was around 2000, 2001. And so, for the most part, though, I would consider this place very safe. It's very peaceful. But, there has been a history of, like anywhere else, just like in Oregon where I'm from, there are stories about a few bad apples, say, going out into nature and doing the unthinkable, setting up a meth lab. But just because a few people set up a meth lab, do you then say, okay, nobody can go into the forest, let's just shut it down and create one big cage? And so my perception is, from what I understand, back in the day, there were more outlaws that may have come out here and done certain things and really disrespected this land. But the people that have come out here recently have done their homework a lot more on what it takes to live off the grid, to get through a winter like this. I think some things are in the air. And because of world events, there's some people that understand that we should probably be looking more into living self-sufficiently and not in these big cities. So I see a good group of folks that I may not want to live with on the same property all the time, but we're already talking to each other. We're using social media and technology. And I guess through my experience, I've seen the power of what a camera can do. For one video to reach one reporter, for one reporter to find that video and write a report on it, for that report to be syndicated. And so this is almost something very spiritual than political. And it also feels more like spiritual warfare to me than anything about race. That this is really about, freedom and trying to communicate to certain members of a community that we mean no harm. And I think that this is like a learned experience, current experience for some of us to not get too emotional, angry when we're attacked, when we're personally attacked and we're smeared. Because people can really waste their time just defending themselves and deal with personally being attacked. So I think that it's probably wise for those of us that are in this fight to not waste our time defending ourselves against slander, to just keep promoting. For me, the solution is to keep promoting this county as an off-the-grid location.
Well, I saw an argument between a friend of mine, John Ansell, and some douchebag radio show hosts in New Zealand. And they're telling up all this bullshit about him, and he goes, Willie, if you tell one more lie about me, I'm going to have to start telling the truth about you. And that's what you do, man. Whenever they tell a lie about you, you just tell the truth about them.
Right. That's true. All we have to do
learn to stop telling lies.
That's right. All we have to do is just continue to tell the truth, and everything is going to sort itself out. And, a lot of us are just trying to also let other people know that have interest in here in this county to not just be spectators, but to also be active themselves on the web, to use this as a way to bring people together. And maybe, I don't necessarily think about a new county, but there are some that have proposed a whole new county from this, to see the power of the people actually organize, to say, okay, there's a certain percentage of us that believe a certain way, that live in this particular geographic area. And so for years there's been a focus on the Free State Project in New Hampshire. And years ago I was thinking, like, it could be this area, though. We can have a colony of liberty. And I think that people that are really scared about the end of the world, or all these doom and gloom things, we've seen the month of September come and go, and we're still here. The end of the world hasn't taken place. There's some people that have lost themselves, I think, on the internet in all these delusional, dystopian realities that never happen. And I would really encourage people, try to maybe become a part of a community, to take a few $1,000s while they still have it and set up an off-the-grid property and go back and forth to the city. That's what I'm proposing, that from all this, people can see that this is a really good place to be with a lot of space. And people with a few $1,000s can afford to live here. And all I'm saying is I think that money is better suited out here than just spending. Some people spend up to $1,000 a month in rent if they're living in Portland, Oregon.
Well, if you're going to create this little Free State Project colony, as you call it, basically you need to wipe out the indigenous population first. I mean, have you got some some diseased blankets or something like that you can hand out to the local officials and the local sheriffs and stuff? Here, bro, it'll keep you warm this winter. Go.
Oh boy! Well, it's almost as if we are returning to a land that's calling us. Honestly, for those of us that are here, because this place is not for everyone. I do not promote this place to everybody. I think that this is a place that maybe some people should consider visiting if they feel drawn to this part of Colorado, to this part of the earth, because there is something special to it. I don't want to sound too new agey or anything, but I'm telling you, it is like a vortex, this spot that we're at. And I think it's because of that we've seen the kind of history that we've seen here, the battles and invasions and the energy right now to this day that I see. I almost see, an archonic, because, it's addressed sometimes on your show, Vinny, presence or evil spirit that doesn't want to see the people come together, but divided over, this perception of difference between us. And I've also been very hard on outsiders myself, being someone from Portland and seeing what the California and New York wave did to the price of rent in Portland. And so it's not necessarily very healthy to just blame outsiders when some problems are clearly internal. This region has seen strife, is what I'm getting at. Historically, cyclically, it's seen strife and periods of major unrest over the land here. So what I'm seeing play out right now, to me, it's like mirroring some period in history. And we're trying to move things forward peacefully. It seems to be that way. History does seem to repeat itself. This is no different. This is just a microcosm for a much larger picture. And it's the people that have come to a place just trying to be left alone and live in freedom, versus a system that wants to push it back out into the system. Rendering people homeless. And so I think that, in a world where people gave a lot of attention to the Bundy Ranch situation, dealing with a bunch of cows, not to belittle that situation, but we're talking about real human beings with families that are threatened with homelessness, to be made criminals overnight. I mean, I think that if there's one place to make a stand, for there to be power in numbers, for there to be momentum, the power of the people to actually, tip the power structure over through peaceful action, through voting, through social media, through pushing the dialogue forward before, pulling the trigger. Like, we need to evolve beyond the Old West. That's all I'm proposing.
Either that or bring it back. Go real old school with this.
It very well could, and that's what people are concerned about. We don't want that. We've heard that stories back in the day. There were people shooting at each other in San Luis over the rights to the well. There are stories about people here in the prairie that I've heard about, that have pulled the gun out, neighbors shooting at each other. It's almost as if we're trying to push or evolve just the energy or whatever. A lot of us kind of have had these conversations that this is like a new era where there's a new population coming here. And I think more people are going to be, this is like the land. When there's nowhere left to go in America, it's been Costilla County. This has been the place where the building codes are so lax. They've been that way for years. You can do what is illegal elsewhere. We don't want to see that change. We got to preserve some place in America in a world where they say that, oh, no, humans can't go here, Agenda 21, let's keep them in the cities. There's nothing sustainable about that, about depending on these trucks bringing us our food and, depend on this cashless society and our debit cards. There's nothing natural about the world we're living in. They should let humans be humans. This is like the perfect place to study people trying to do that. And I think that we have a lot of potential now with technology at our fingertips. Years ago, they could just push people around, threaten people, scare people. Before the age of the camera, so much is possible now to actually expose them on what they're doing. And actually maybe make friends in the process, I would rather say.
Here's what I like about this, Alex, is because technology can be used in two ways. Number one, it can be used to draw you away from and be detached from nature. The other way is it actually allows you to live within it and be surrounded by it without much difference to your daily life in a large way of degrees. It brings that kind of modicum of convenience to it, and this is what technology has done over time. It makes tasks that you have to do every day a little bit easier. And now I think off-the-grid living is very much different to how it used to be. How it used to be, you didn't have no phones, you didn't have no internet, you were off the grid.
Right. Well, now with technology, people are learning from YouTube, so there's a learning curve acceleration that is just exploding. And so, you want to learn how to wire up some solar panels. Well, here's a video. It shows you what wiring to get, why a charge controller is important. There's information you can get about setting up a windmill generator, or there's people that have ideas that I've never thought of that are offering to help me do certain projects out here off the grid. Also, with certain individuals, there are certain strategies where people help at the same time build one project, one earth bag home, and they finish it over the course of a few weeks, and nobody has to pay anybody anything, and they go on to the next structure. And so this is kind of a loose plan that some of us are discussing, and to actually get stuff done, and it's a model that actually works.
Yeah. Voluntarism seems to accomplish a lot more than simply just taxing people forcibly and then spending about 90% of that tax revenue simply paying the people to collect your taxes and be bureaucratic assholes about it. John, you've been very silent there.
A lot of what Alex said I completely agree with. There is a very synchronistic vibe coming down through here. When I would tell people in 2013, before I moved out here, that I wanted to build a home out of mud, and all the things that I was people would look at me like I was nuts. Like, I never imagined in a million years that I would meet 40 or 50 other people in a room fighting and arguing for the exact same thing. I never thought I'd meet a single other person wanting to build an earth bag home. And here there's a whole group of them. We've all been able to get along, even though we've never met each other before. We all kind of have the same vibe. There's something going on, Is it the pot? Is it the building code regulations? Is it the aliens? Is it all of it? I don't know. Not that that's people do believe there's UFOs out here. I haven't seen them.
Well, if there's one thing I know about pot, it brings people together.
Well, I'll tell you what, the aliens out here avoid me. They don't want to get captured on camera. So, I haven't seen what some other people have, and I just assume they're avoiding.
You could make a new organization, the AA Aliens Avoid AlexAnsary.com.
Very, very possible. Yeah.
And you can do an entire YouTube series of like when you're filming the sky and there's just nothing there because the aliens are avoiding you.
Yep. Like I've definitely spent well up to 9 months out here in a year without power. But there's a lot to see out here, and we don't have all the answers as to why they might want to push us off. But what I can tell you is this is an area where you're really close to nature. And last night we had the super blood moon, and being in this part of, we already know that the moon was really close to the Earth. And I don't know how many people listening watched it, but being out here without the light pollution and the noise pollution, and I haven't even mentioned yet, Vinny, you talk about, these devices that can help protect us from these unnatural magnetic fields. There you go right there. That's what it's about. This is one of the few places you can go and just be away from all that unnatural electromagnetic smart meter energy, cell phone tower energy, all these other unnatural things that are not good for the human body or magnetic field. So coming out here, you feel closer to nature because it's a more natural state. And what's wrong with that? What's wrong with people wanting to live in a more natural state? It is not something I like being around. Smart meters, cell phone towers. It feels invasive to my body, and I'm not the only one that sees that. And so that's really what is really powerful about this place. Now, if someone wants to get a cell phone and get internet, there's certain places where you can get a signal, but there are other places where there's no signals at all. And so there's something special about that. In a world where there's all these signals, there's something special about a few places in America left where you can go and really feel the silence.
Yeah, I think that's what people are looking for in a brochure.
Right, I just wrote it down right there.
This is the place where you can truly observe the silence, and nobody will be able to call you. And also, nobody will be able to hear you scream.
But also the place where maybe you just want to do a little bit of screaming, too.
While in the throes of an incredibly powerful mushroom trip,
That's true. It's definitely, and you're surrounded by the most amazing sunsets on top of it. And these winds that come through, they're almost, like these winds of change. I don't know, some from a Scorpion song. Heavy-duty stuff, things moving up and down. Some people can't take it. And I think that those winds are trying to, push us forward in a way, And so some people come out here. It was written in the Chris O'Brien books that this was a Vision Quest area that the Native American tribes would come and hang out for a period of time. And there are some that live full-time in some areas, some that just came through here and hunted. But this was a place where people would come and go for a long time before we even got here. And I think that's going to continue through this saga. I don't think that whatever happens here with the county is going to stop people from coming out here or being called out here spiritually. I speculate that all the time, that people are being called to this part of North America, as well as other people.
Have you checked out ley lines or something like that to see whether or not you're on one of them?
Well, dealing with discussing earlier the reference to climate change and it getting wetter here and drier on the West Coast, and the idea of magnetic north pole shifting, something going on that I can't explain. With natural climate change, Colorado shifting to something more favorable. Possibly. I've had a few dreams about it. A few other people have had dreams about something shifting. I look at where Colorado is on the map. We know the government has interest here in Colorado. I think that in the worst-case scenario, geopolitically in a war situation, it's good to be in a place where there's not a whole lot of people. If you look at where the Costilla County is on the map, and, picture a worst-case scenario, nuclear fallout, solar flare, EMP, no power. We're talking about all these scenarios, right? Risks, people fleeing these areas, trying to go into rural areas to find food and apples. This is really far from a lot of places where people would be fleeing. And there's not a whole lot of things out there that would draw people in. It's not super well known. And I think there's a lot of other good surrounding areas in Colorado. And so there's a lot of places like this in America where it's like it's decent for off the grid because there isn't a whole lot that would draw a whole lot of people there. So if someone's already living self-sufficiently for several years and they're taking baby steps towards being self-sufficient all the way around, the San Luis Valley is a good place to do that.
Is there enough food growing on there in the off the grid community? Because if there's not much water, how's everybody going to eat in a end of the world scenario?
Wildlife. There's a lot of wildlife. Yeah. Elk, deer, rabbits. I mean, there's animals everywhere. It's ridiculous, especially in the mountains. But even on the flat, there are hundreds of elk and deer.
There are wells people can access. There are laws against people drilling their own private well. But there are people that, in a disaster situation, a well, the person with the well would be a very valuable member of a community. There are some people that have wells out here. Some of us know who they are. And so officially, as much as we know, it's not a crime to receive water. They can't sell water, but water can be shared. And so that potential does exist out here, but not everyone has a well. A lot of people, honestly, they go to town and they use those fossil fuels to get their water from the store or from a faucet. Some people develop friendships with people in town, and so sometimes they may take a shower in town, or they may dispose of their garbage in someone's garbage can legally, or they may go to the dump themselves. And so the people that come out here, they're rugged. This isn't like going to your normal RV park. We have the anonymities. It's rough, it's really cold, and there's, again, a lot of resentment towards newcomers. So this is an interesting time for us because already we're going into winter, and things are going to start getting really cold really quick, and I need to insulate this RV. Otherwise, I really could freeze. And there are people that are thinking and have wrote that we're going to be driven out of here this winter, and that we're going to end up at a homeless shelter in Alamosa. So these jabs have already been thrown out there, and we're going to defy those jabs. There's going to be some creative things we're going to document as a part of the solution. That maybe we're going to document how we survive a winter out here from insulating an RV. Another project that's on the table, an off-the-grid project, is a do-it-yourself rocket stove, and that may be built into this RV. There's also what you can do with straw bales to insulate your trailer. There's skirting, things like that. So more heat is retained inside the home. When I was living out here 3 years ago, I did not see people in RVs or trailers insulating against the cold using straw bale hay. The group that I'm associated with now, they're a little more innovative than people that I've met in the past out here. So, I think that there's going to be a big education process. With technology, we've learned more things about living off the grid by watching videos, websites, podcasts, and we're also sharing the knowledge with others. And so, through this whole thing, I think we're going to be able to shift the tide of public opinion. More people are going to learn about off-the-grid living through all this.
Castilla County offgridliving.com or something like that, a central website where everybody puts up instructional videos of all the wonderful innovations that they've come up with that they're doing to insulate from the cold, to lay traps for public officials they don't want on their land. That kind of thing. That can be really useful to people in isolated communities.
And fishing is also something that we haven't talked about. There is a river nearby, so, there are fishing licenses that some people can get. There are other issues, though, that we have to continue to look at as a community dealing with the water supply and the water quality. It wasn't too long ago, just to the west of where we are, that there was a massive EPA spill of some type that spilled into the Animas River. And the river turned orange or reddish. And that river is still polluted. I don't know exactly what you read about that, John, but there are some real issues that people should be talking about where the federal government caused the spill. No one's really talking about it. And there are other issues clearly dealing with the water that don't really are not the fault of the new residents.
We have reports in here from the EPA just recently upon the water quality, and according to them, it's fucked.
Yeah, and everything just got real quiet Yeah, everything got real quiet.
John, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. I haven't disagreed with anything. You guys have been doing good, but I'm still here.
Oh, yeah, but there's always other perspectives that can be laid that we haven't covered already. And because we started off the segment trying to talk about the solutions and the possible thing, and so far we've kind of garnered on the general idea that a solution's simply going to present itself because everybody's attacking this problem in their own way. And in my opinion, if you've got a central authority that's under attack from many different directions in so many different ways, it's not actually possible to defend yourself from so many vantage points, is it? So it's kind of inevitable.
I would have to agree. I spent a lot of time in the last few weeks trying to look down all kinds of avenues for solutions. I have some friends in Utah who are these sovereign kind of guys. They believe in the Constitution, and they, I don't know if you've heard of what a land patent is, but they fight the county in Utah all the time, and they don't have to do building codes or any of that stuff just because they know the right signs to put on their property and the right paperwork to fill out. And I've been in contact with them trying to learn that process. I don't know if it's bullshit or not yet, but I'm trying to figure that out. I'm trying to approach it from as many possibilities as I can because, like I said at the beginning, I like to think there's a technical solution to everything. I'm a very engineered mind kind of guy. So I started the volunteer group, and there's 40 people now who are ready to help each other work. So if we have to comply, we'll comply. If we can get around it through establishing our fundamental rights in a federal court, we'll do that. If we can find common ground with the politicians, that's possible. It is possible that they will see that enough of us are coming out of the woodworks and that maybe they made a mistake in thinking this, and maybe they might get voted out next term. So there's a million possible solutions, and we can't relent on any front. Any solution we can come up with, we got to keep trying and just keep attacking the problem. We can't ignore it. Me personally, I'm not going to ignore it. This is where I bought the property for a reason, to build a house, to leave it to my kids. I don't want to deal with a mortgage. I've had, in my personal history, issues with mortgages. I've had friends lose homes. I don't want to see that. That's not going to happen. So if it takes me 5 more years to build my house than I expected, I'll go about it that way. I'm more than willing to comply. I'm also more than willing to resist peaceably and in a court of law. And, those are the kind of approaches, like I said, we're all individuals. Everybody, it's hard because I talk to a lot of people. I've talked to Vince, the crazy guy everybody really disagrees with. He's living out there. Vince Edwards.
Man
he lives
after
in his
my
RV.
own heart.
Yeah, he lives in his RV. He hasn't paid a single permit. When they come and bug him, he starts quoting a bunch of laws. I believe Vince is going to get arrested eventually just because he's going the dangerous route. But I support what he's doing. Whether anybody thinks he's crazy or not or whatever, it is his right fundamentally to be out there doing what he wants to do. He bought the land. And so I help Vince as much as I can looking up court records. I told Vince if he ever gets arrested, I should be the first person he calls because I'll help him do paperwork on the outside. Anything I can do to help my neighbors overcome this, I've volunteered myself for. I believe that's why I'm here. I kind of, as weird as it may seem, I foreshadowed all of this way before I ever came here. I knew something was pulling me out here to use my intellect to defend these rights. I don't know how I knew. I'm not going to say God or anything like that. I don't believe in that. But something brought me here, and I had a feeling this was going to happen. I just knew it. And
Did
so
you
I
have any
can't
deja
back
vu?
down. It is kind of like deja vu. It's I don't know how to describe it really, other than maybe in one of those mushroom trips or when I was stoned or something. I just had this great feeling that I would come out here, that I'd be needed, and that some kind of interaction like this would happen where I'd be representing my people, I guess you could say, all of us off-grid people, ecology-minded individuals, and people who are interested in liberty. I kind of knew it. And I think Alex must have known it. I think all of us kind of. That's why we have been able to band together, and we have the same vibe or wavelength. Go ahead.
You've got this common vibe, common goal, off-grid living, and the last thing you just need to unite us is a common enemy, We know we're the good guys, and we know what we want, so who's standing in our way?
Well, it'd be the county. That's the common enemy that united us, was all these new regulations. I don't know if you've actually read the regulations. It's only like 2 or 3 sentences. It's just so impacting. They basically plan to disallow camping permits. They have an extended camping permit where you're allowed to stay on your property for 90 days in whatever you want. And they're going to disallow camping if you have anything less than a residential permit with a septic tank. Whereas before, you could go and apply for a $50 shed building permit, which is how I stayed out there for a year without getting messed with. And they'd let you just stay there. And they would tell you things like, well, we want you to bring in your receipts for when you dump your waste and this and that, but they never checked it. So to me, it seems like they've got to be up to something, because they don't need to change the regulations. If they just enforced the regulations that they already put into place, there wouldn't be the problems they're complaining about. They have plenty of tax money. I mean, 40,000 lots times whatever, they $4 million a year. They have plenty of tax money to do this. They're not as poor as they lead on.
And you know what?
One of the next – go ahead.
We haven't really talked about like certain rumors or things we've been told. We've really kept the speculation out of this broadcast. But we're talking about like local corruption and maybe the real reason why they're not so dependent on taxpayer dollars. Stuff like that. So there are things going on that we don't know about that are definitely there. Yeah.
Is there an increase in the privatization of local services and amenities, utilities, etc.?
Everything's privatized already. There really is no public utilities. Power is privatized. The road construction is privatized. Anything you could think of has already been privatized.
By chance, is this to no-bid contracts to fewer larger private companies?
I could say there's a pattern of preventing growth and denying business licenses, denying people coming in from the outside to grow or help the county grow in a way that other counties would normally welcome new money from the outside, new business, new tourism. Because they're on a pathway, a road that leads to Fort Garland. Fort Garland leads to the sand dunes. So it's not too far away from places where people are traveling. And so they tend to want to maintain their little community being isolated, enclosed, and things being very, very quiet and not changing. It's kind of, and so again, these outsiders are perceived to be an invading force that will bring harm. And so there's just a lot of communication that has to happen between the new residents, the people that are coming out here, and the people of San Luis in whatever way we can do. What I'm going to do is just document on video, but there are other people that may want to run for office since all this started. Because we put Costilla County on the map. And maybe from the coverage, people are going to realize this is a really good place to be. Where there's still a lot of affordable land. I mean, we're talking about down payments of several $100s. And, for years, people would pay that much and pay every month $100 for their land. And what that does is leave the rest of the money, if someone has it, for the building supplies and or the labor to build their property. And so people should still have the opportunity to do that. So if anything else, just by raising awareness, we're raising interest in the area.
And they're raising red tape around people's building and construction and things of this nature, tighter regulation. And, of course, you'll have to get these things paid for privately, which will indefinitely favour those who actually have money and resources in order to put up with the compliance cost, and will drive the rest of the people into worse poverty, possibly bankruptcy and homelessness. Yeah, sounds exactly like what we've got going on here in Auckland. We've got powerful roundtable groups of which all the private contractors are members, paid members, usually $10,000 per year via credit card purchase for a membership fee for a large company. and they have what they call public excluded meetings with the council, where the council divvies up, or rather the companies instruct the council to divvy up the entirety of the ratepayers' money into their contracting hands, and they just come up with a whole bunch of projects that don't sound very interesting or perhaps sound unappealing to the local people, so they don't get interested in it. Like, oh, it's a sewage water scheme, we need this much money, and they go, oh, sewage water, okay, here's the money, I don't really want to deal with that shit. And voila, you have a blown out budget, and you have a completely corrupted local government, which essentially are only there to protect the interests of the corporations that are now running the region. And anybody who doesn't play ball basically becomes an enemy of the state. And what they do is they essentially first try to get a mortgagee sale. And secondly, if that doesn't work, they try to stress you out financially enough to make you want to commit suicide, and many do. Bankruptcy and private real estate agents being taken in and taking people's homes off them, and those people subsequently killing themselves is not uncommon. It's essentially a murder, rape for profiteer scheme on a grand scale, but it works on the micro scale as well. Does that sound a little bit like what you guys are having over there?
It definitely feels like that, yeah. I mean, especially since it happened overnight. For years, before I bought my property, many of us spent a lot of time researching, calling the county. Everything was gravy, perfect, sure, come on out. And then overnight, it just flips. It definitely feels like there may be some kind of conspiratorial or somebody's getting paid something.
Follow the money. Yep. The old tried and true by Deep Throat there. Follow the money, bro, and you will find out a deep root of scumbaggery, some kind of a rabbit hole spider web of scumbaggery with all these interconnected issues and factions and people and companies and things of that nature, which are all interrelated and intermingled and interinvested and so on and so forth. And you realize there aren't any of these different people, there aren't any of these different companies, they're all just the same soup of scumbaggery that has been woven together to blind us from the fact that we're fucking slaves. You listen to the Vinny Eastwood Show. I hope that this has been very encouraging for you. We'll see you again some other time. Thank you very much for listening at thevinnyeastwoodshow.com. It's Vinny with a Y, because it's the most important question.
News and information you can trust. This is American Freedom Radio. Freedom, American Freedom Radio. American Freedom Radio.
Nutritious food is real body armor. It builds muscle, burns fat, improves digestion, and feeds the entire body the nutrients it needs. Did you know the U.S. government banned the hemp plant from growing in the United States and classified it as a Schedule I drug to hide it behind the marijuana plant? People have been confused about this plant for over 80 years, and many still don't know what hemp is. So now you know hemp is not marijuana, and marijuana is not hemp. They are different varieties of the same species. HempUSA.org wants the world to know these basic facts and to help people understand that hemp protein powder is the best-kept health secret you need to know about. Remember, hemp protein powder contains 53% protein, is gluten-free, anti-inflammatory, non-GMO, and is loaded with nutrients. Call 888-910-4367, 888-910-4367, and see what our powder, seeds, and oil can do for you. Only at HempUSA.org.
What kind of person are you? How do you see yourself? Are you the kind of person that lets everyone else do all the work, just hoping that you'll be able to get some of the crumbs that fall from the table? Or are you the kind of person that rolls up their sleeves and does the dirty jobs that no one else wants to do? Are you hoping that all the activists giving their blood, sweat, and tears to serve humanity are going to solve all the world's problems? Or are you just wondering, is there something simple I can do to contribute? Yes, there is. Help us. Help us do what we do. Partner up with American Freedom Radio today by gifting a regular amount to support the network and your favorite hosts, bringing you less commercials and more information. Go to AmericanFreedomRadio.com and start donating today from between $1 and $100 per month, according to the kind of person you are. Thank you very much for your support.
We are living in a new era. Partnerships are more important than profit, and gratitude is more respected than greed. As the millennial generation evolves the corporate landscape, our company aims to maximize the achievements of CBD application and push the limits of what's possible by 2020. Our core product matrix and careful cannabidiol purification process are uniquely designed to be privately made in different regions of the world and is geared to assist the efforts of different nations to change the landscape of various pain-related healthcare costs, epilepsy and autism, rising mental disorders, and even soldier suicides. Crystal Pure CBD is made with the industry's finest 99.9% pure CBD crystals. No paste, no filler. Our solution is a permanent answer, and it saves you over 1/3 in cost. Crystal Pure CBD. Come join us.
You're listening to AmericanFreedomRadio.com, the network who perseveres in delivering intelligent debate, constructive dialogue with true independence. The freedom to broadcast the truth is not free at all. So what is American Freedom Radio worth to you? The empowering information with fun, honest and pure integrity behind it provides an example to follow. Friendships to flourish with the moral altruism that pulls no punches. The hosts sacrifice and show remarkable discipline in their duty to deliver quality radio in service to the community with strength, wisdom and loyalty. The founders of AFR wish to thank you personally for sharing your views and insights to make the best radio and alternative media. Now it's time for you to give something back and play a vital role in the future of America. Be as generous with us as we've been with you. Click on the donate banner at AmericanFreedomRadio.com or volunteer by emailing AmericanFreedomRadio.com. Vaccine, psychotropic drugs and artillery batteries not included.
No rules. No rules. No taboo topics. No taboo topics. No fear of doom. No fear of doom. We are American Freedom Radio. American Freedom Radio. Yo. 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 Yo.